Monte Wicker is 89 years old today. He still rides his BMW motorcycle to work at Monte's camera shop in uptown Whittier. He opened the doors here in 1948 and has watched the community change over the decades. Come with us as we learn about early Whittier from the man who was there.
I'm Dorothea Boyd, and I'm here to interview Monte Wicker, who is a wonderful storyteller of early Whittier and current Whittier. This film is based on old photographs, I believe. Where did you get them?
These old photographs were taken by a man named Walter Butler that was one of the first people to be interested in photography in Whittier, as far as I know. And I've never heard of anyone else that shot pictures of everything. And he shot pictures everywhere. And he just had pictures like all of us in a pile and this. And Orville Espel knew about it. And he was also an amateur photographer who was a good customer of mine in Monte's camera shop. But he collected all these pictures from of Walter Butler. I don't know how he got them. He never mentioned that, but he got them. And he made copies of every one of these prints. They were prints that he got a hold of. And he made copies and put what they were and when on each one. Then he made slides out of the prints and had a slideshow. And he made a narration that he put on tape because he was not a ham and it embarrassed him to get up and speak before people. So he would just turn it on and have his tape recording going, and then he would show these slides. Well, then I was doing that after he couldn't do it anymore. I started doing it and I had all these slides, and so I would go out and I would add to his tape because I'm a ham, you know. I was doing it enough that I was getting tired of doing it. So Mark Finley and I were talking, and I wondered if they could tape it or do something so that I could just say, here's a tape, go run it. It would be a lot easier than somebody sitting running slides, which things can go wrong, which they did. Some of the slides would stick every once in a while, and you'd have to take a couple of minutes off while you piddled around getting a slide unstuck. And the tape recorder would keep going, and you'd have to back it up to get it with the slides. And so now what I was doing was just talking myself. I just gave the whole narration because I knew what Orville had said. And he was the one that had done this. He was really the one that did a good job getting the real history. So I just copied but I knew some of it, but most of it I took from Orville. And then he became ill when he was much older. He was getting into his 80s, and his wife gave me a whole batch of these pictures plus his negatives, and they were 4x5s that he'd shot. Very professional, I mean, as far as quality. Anyway, I ended up with them, and I have given them to the museum, and they have them now. And then we have this record that Finley's made of this whole thing, and it's worked out very well. Finley did a fabulous job on that. I was really impressed because they edited it so that the slideshow became a video, and it's much better than the slideshow. And the narration was great and everything. So it became professional, and we were all a bunch of amateurs playing with it, you know. But now we're going to do something else. We're going to make a DVD of this whole thing, which is much better than a tape. I was born in 1917 at the corner of Painter Avenue and Broadway Street.
Yeah. Right around there.
And I lived for 18 years within 2 blocks of that spot, and I never left till I got over 18. And then my folks moved to La Habra.
Oh.
Yeah. But I only lived there at night. I was in Whittier all day because I worked here and I had a girlfriend here and all those good things. I went to what was called Broadway School on Broadway Street, and then we had a superintendent of schools that came along, and he said there's no school should be named after a street. It should be named after somebody, so it is now Lincoln School. So I went to Lincoln School from kindergarten through the 4th. Then I went to my Aunt Nellie's, was the principal of Bailey School, and I went there from 5th and 6th. And then we good old John Muir, where Mr. E.K. Bishop, who was an old pioneer of this town, E.K. Bishop was the principal. And he wouldn't care now, but we called him Eagle Eye Bishop, because he had one eye that he kind of closed all the time. So we called him Eagle Eye. And he could see things that anything we did, he could see it. Yeah, he was good at that. Then Whittier High School, and then I went to Whittier College one year, and then end up at Davis. I always tell my kids I had to walk 7 or 8 blocks through the snow, and my father, now my dad though, he lived out on Workman Mill Road, clear way out as far as Rio Hondo College, and he used to ride a bicycle to Whittier High School, clear from out there.
Maybe 3, 4.
On a dirt road, probably. The one thing I can say, which I always felt, was that before all you people came here, it was a lot better town. But that's progress. Before World War II, Whittier was a nice, quaint little Quaker town, and although the Quakers were in the minority a long time ago, but the idea of the town was still the same kind of small town with churches and trees and quiet, and and now it's just another town. Pio Pico was quite a nice old man, I mean a nice young man too. He's the last governor of California, of Mexican governor. They used to race horses up and down Whittier Boulevard and bet on the horses. We might have been the old Santa Anita as far as I know, but anyway, that he was a good person from everything I've heard from people that did know him, that were old people when I was a kid, that he was a nice guy. One more thing real quick.
Good.
When I was 5 years old, which would be 1922, they made a Tarzan movie right by his mansion down there. That was a jungle in those days. Now, it all got washed away in these floods we used to have. We used to have a lot of floods. And we had a Tarzan movie there. And my folks took me out to watch them making this movie. And they had a black panther down here in a cage. And then I found out, I mean, when my folks told me that they were asking people questions, they had a lamb, and in this Tarzan movie, and this was in 1922 when it was, Crank the Machine that was black and white, they had this panther kill this lamb. Well, now you couldn't get away with that in 100 years. Now every animal activist, including me, would be all over their backs. But they actually killed this lamb, had the panther kill the lamb, and it was a black panther. I remember seeing it in the cage, and the lamb was somewhere out there. In the Depression, you could get the best hamburger in town at Red and Max that was up on Philadelphia just above Comstock, and it was the best hamburger I have ever eaten. And you had French fries and sauce of their own all over the hamburger, and you had everything with it for 35 cents. But 35 cents would be worth $4 or $5 right now.
I remember McDonald's when they were 19 cents, and if we had enough money for all the children, we'd buy them one.
Well, yeah,
Have
but
you seen
McDonald's
Monte?
hamburgers never
they're
wouldn't
just
even
all-
compare to
no,
Red.
just
Red
very
Max
ordinary.
had the best tasting
Uh-huh.
hamburger I ever tasted in my life, and they're gone. In the 20s and 30s especially, people used the red car, or which was a trolley car, an electric trolley car. And it came up from Whittier, it came around and up Whittier Boulevard to Philadelphia, up Philadelphia to Comstock. Now it used to go further, but those days in the 30s, it just went right up to Comstock. That was the end of it. The funny little story about it is in about 1928 or 9, right by Whittier High School, there's a steep part of the track has to go up to Pickering. Well, typical of high school kids, somebody came up with the idea, so they greased the track. And the Pacific Electric trolley that day got just below Pickering, and that's where it stayed, just spinning its wheels. So they had to back clear down almost to Fred C. Nellis School, or way back, and get a run at it so they could just keep going until they got to Pickering, and then they could go on up. Well, then they sanded the tracks so that others could do it, but that first car couldn't make it, and so that's Whittier High School students did that. I know who did it, but I won't tell. We used to pick up an Austin and put it in the hall at Whittier High School. I remember that. You could pick, the little Austin automobiles.
Oh.
With Bob Alexander, who the Alexander family's an old time, owned half of Santa Fe Springs in the old days. Bob Alexander had a little Austin, and so the whole bunch of us picked it up and put it in the hall of high school. Carried it in there and put it in up the stairs. Took quite a few kids to do it, but we did it. No, it's a BMW. A BMW motorcycle. It's pure black and chrome and silver, but it's pure black motorcycle, and it's 1150 cc's, and it'll go a lot faster than I would ever ride any motorcycle, by double, I think.
Do you go on the freeway on it?
Hmm?
Do you go on the freeway on it?
Oh yeah. I don't ride it very much because I know that at 89 my reflexes aren't quite as good as they were at 18. Yeah.
Oh,
So, so anyway, I just ride it to work occasionally and have a lot of fun. I've been up in the mountains in it and a few things like that. I became a game warden. And during that time, my father-in-law had given me a big old 122 camera, the old postcard-sized camera. And so while I was out being a game warden, I started shooting pictures, and I got real fascinated by photography. And then I joined the camera club in Whittier when I came back and was working down at Terminal Island as a game warden. And then Mr. Barton in Barton's camera shop called me one day and said, when you get out, because he knew I was getting out, and he said, would you come and see me? I'd like to talk to you. So I went to see him, and he knew that I'd been in photography, and so he hired me. And after a few years there, I thought, well, I can run a camera store, and sort of, just my ego made me go start a camera store, and I'm still here. I've been in the camera business now ever since 1948, and this is 2006. So, how many years is that? 58, I think. 58 years ago. We're like the dinosaurs. We're all going to be extinct. Small businesses are going to go, which people are going to be very sorry, and they'll come back. We're trying to hang in there till they come back. So we hope that we can last. But so far we're doing all right. I'm still running. That's what I'm going back from this little interview, I'm going back and count the money and take it to the bank. So as long as we can count the money and go to the bank, we'll be in business.
And laughing all the way.
And my three sons work for him, and my wife. We all worked together for years. And my wife passed away, but my three sons were still with me. Then one of them found out that there was more need for a handyman than there was a camera store. So he decided to become a handyman, and he's doing that now instead of working in the camera store. My other two sons are still there. My oldest son runs it, really. All I do is count the money and go to the bank. I don't care about anything else.